History often tells us that Rome fell in the year 476 AD, when the barbarian warlord Odoacer deposed the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus. We hear the phrase "the fall of Rome" and imagine an empire collapsing into dust, its glory extinguished forever. But this is only half the story, because Rome did not truly fall in 476, it merely shifted east. The legacies of Roman law, Roman order, Roman faith, and Roman civilization endured in a realm that came to be known as the Byzantine Empire. For nearly 1,000 years after the supposed fall of Rome, emperors still ruled from the imperial capital of Constantinople. Armies still marched under the Roman eagle, and the Senate still convened. This was the empire that outlasted plagues, invasions, religious schisms, and centuries of war. An empire that fused the classical past with the Christian present. An empire that would become both a shield for Europe and a beacon of culture. And yet, after standing for more than 11 centuries, it too would one day collapse in fire and blood, its capital falling to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. This is the story of Byzantium, the last remnants of Rome. To understand Byzantium, we must return to the 3rd and 4th centuries of the Roman Empire, a time of crisis and change. The empire had grown vast to effectively ruled from one city. In the year 285, Emperor Diocletian divided the empire into east and west, hoping to restore stability. The western half, governed from Rome and later Ravenna, included Italy, Gaul, Spain, and Britain. The eastern half, governed from cities like Nicomedia and Antioch, contained the wealthy provinces of Greece, Asia Minor, Syria, and Egypt. This eastern half was richer, more urban, and more defensible than the west. Its cities bustled with trade from the Silk Road, its fertile lands fed millions, and its population was more concentrated. It was here that the seeds of Byzantium were sown. In the year 330, the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great made a fateful decision. On the site of the ancient Greek city of Byzantium, he founded a new capital, Constantinople, the city of Constantine, strategically placed on the Bosporus Strait, where Europe meets Asia. Constantinople trade routes between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. Its walls would prove nearly impregnable, and its harbor, the Golden Horn, would shelter the empire's fleet. Constantine declared it the New Rome. When the Western Empire collapsed in 476, this Eastern Empire endured. Its people did not call themselves Byzantines. They called themselves Romans. They believed, with every fiber of their being, that they were the Roman Empire, and in many ways, they were right. Latin remained the language of government for centuries. Roman law formed the basis of their courts, and the imperial office remained a continuation of Augustus's principate. But over time, this Eastern Rome took on a distinct identity: Greek in language, Christian in faith, and Uniquella Byzantine in culture. No figure embodies the ambition of Byzantium more than Emperor Justinian I, who reigned from 527 to 565. He dreamed of restoring the Roman Empire to its ancient glory, and under his leadership, the Byzantine state reached new heights. Justinian's reign began with turmoil. In 532, Constantinople erupted in the Nika riots, sparked by chariot-racing factions but fueled by discontent against imperial taxation and corruption. For days, the city burned, and thousands demanded Justinian's abdication. Terrified, he considered fleeing. But his wife, the Empress Theodora, delivered words that would echo through history: royalty is a fine burial shroud. Encouraged by her resolve, Justinian unleashed his generals. The orators were slaughtered in the hippodrome, tens of thousands cut down. With order restored, Justinian turned to rebuilding. Out of the ashes rose one of the most magnificent structures in human history, the Hagia Sophia, a vast cathedral crowned by a soaring dome that seemed to float on air. For nearly 1,000 years, it stood as the greatest church in Christendom. Justinian also launched a campaign of reconquest. His brilliant general, Belisarius, retook North Africa from Vandals in 533, crushed the Ostrogoths in Italy, and even reclaimed parts of Spain. For a brief moment, the Mediterranean again seemed a Roman lake. Yet these victories came at immense cost. War drained the treasury, plague ravaged the population, and the reconquered territories soon slipped away. Still, Justinian left behind a more enduring legacy: the Corpus Juris Civilis, or body of civil law. This monumental codification of Roman law would shape legal traditions in Europe for centuries to come. After Justinian's death, Byzantium faced unrelenting pressure. To the east, the Persians waged war after war, threatening Syria and Mesopotamia. In the early 7th century, Emperor Heraclius finally struck back, launching daring campaigns deep into Persian territory. In 627, at the Battle of Nineveh, he crushed the Persian army, ending a century of conflict. But the victory was short-lived. From the deserts of Arabia came a new and powerful force, Islam. United under the Prophet Muhammad and his successors, Arab armies swept across the Middle East. Within decades, Syria, Palestine, and Egypt, heartlands of the Byzantine Empire, were lost. In 717, the Arab Caliphate besieged Constantinople itself, only to be repelled by the city's mighty Theodosian walls and a terrifying secret weapon, Greek fire, a liquid that ignited on contact and could not be extinguished by water. Though Byzantium survived, it was forever changed. Cut off from of its wealthiest provinces, the empire reorganized into smaller, militarized districts called themes, where soldiers were given land in exchange for service. The language of government shifted from Latin to Greek. Byzantium was no longer the old Roman Empire, it was something new, something distinctly Eastern, yet still carrying Rome's torch. Despite centuries of struggle, Byzantium experienced a golden age under the Macedonian dynasty. Beginning in the late 9th century, the empire expanded its borders, reclaiming Crete, Cyprus, and much of the Balkans. Under emperors like Basil II, known as the Bulgar Slayer, Byzantium reached the height of its medieval power, crushing its enemies and extending its influence across Eastern Europe. This was also an age of culture and learning. Byzantine scholars preserved classical Greek texts, copied manuscripts, and advanced theology and philosophy. Monasteries flourished, icons were painted with radiant gold, and the empire's art influenced Etruscan lands far beyond its borders. The Orthodox Church, centered in Constantinople, spread its faith to the Slavic peoples. In 988, Prince Vladimir of Kiev converted to Christianity, laying the foundations of Orthodox Russia. Yet prosperity bred complacency. By the 11th century, Byzantium faced new enemies, the Seljuk Turks, who defeated the empire at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071, seizing most of Anatolia. Desperate, Emperor Alexius I Komnenos appealed to the West for aid. The result was the First Crusade, launched in 1096. At first, the Crusaders helped Byzantium recover territory. But soon, relations soured. The most disastrous moment came in the year 1204, during the Fourth Crusade. Western knights, instead of marching on Jerusalem, turned their swords against Constantinople. In April, they stormed the city, looting, burning, and desecrating its churches. The treasures of Hagia Sophia were stolen. Relics were scattered across Europe, and the Byzantine Empire was shattered. For nearly 60 years, Constantinople was ruled by a Latin empire. Though the Byzantines eventually reclaimed their capital in 1261, the damage was irreparable. Byzantium never truly recovered. By the 15th century, the empire was a shadow of its former self, reduced to Constantinople and a few outlying territories. Surrounding it was a rising power, the Ottoman Turks. In 1453, Sultan Mehmed II, known as Mehmed the Conqueror, laid siege to Constantinople. His army numbered perhaps 80,000, armed with massive cannons capable of battering even the mighty Theodosian walls. Inside, Emperor Constantine's Ipolaiologus prepared for a final stand. He rallied his outnumbered defenders, perhaps only 7,000 men, including a small band of Venetian and Genoese allies. For weeks, the city resisted, hurling Greek fire and repelling assaults. But on May 29th, after a final, furious bombardment, the Ottomans broke through. Legend holds that Constantine XI cast off his imperial regalia and fought to the death in the streets. As the Ottomans poured in, the great cathedral of Hagia Sophia was transformed into a mosque. After 1,123 years, the Roman Empire born in the age of Augustus was no more. The fall of Constantinople sent shockwaves across Europe. Many feared that the Ottomans would soon conquer the continent itself. Refugee scholars fled westward, carrying with them manuscripts of ancient Greek and Roman texts. These works helped ignite the Renaissance, fueling Europe's rediscovery of classical learning. The Byzantine tradition of Orthodox Christianity, meanwhile, lived on in Russia and the Balkans, shaping cultures and identities to this day. The Ottomans inherited Constantinople, renaming it Istanbul, and made it the capital of their vast empire. But the memory of Byzantium, the last remnant of Rome, endured in the imagination of Europe. Why does Byzantium matter? It mattered because it preserved the legacy of Rome when the West was in chaos. It preserved Roman law through Justinian's code, Roman engineering through its fortifications, Roman learning through its libraries, and Roman spirit through its resilience. It mattered because it acted as a shield, holding back waves of invaders, Persians, Arabs, Turks that might otherwise have swept into Europe centuries earlier. It mattered because it was a bridge between East and West, blending Greek philosophy, Roman law, and Christian faith into a unique civilization. It mattered because without Byzantium, the Renaissance might never have come. Without Byzantium, Orthodox Christianity would not have spread to Russia. Without Byzantium, the memory of Rome might truly have been lost. The Byzantine Empire has often been misunderstood, dismissed as decadent, corrupt, or irrelevant, but its endurance speaks for itself. It survived 1,000 years longer than the Western Empire. It endured plagues, sieges, and invasions. It preserved knowledge, fostered art, and gave the world some of its greatest monuments, even in its final moments. When Constantinople fell in 1453, Byzantium did not die in vain. Its fall marked the end of one age and the birth of another. The Ottomans inherited its capital, the Renaissance inherited its learning, Russia inherited its faith, and the world inherited its memory. The Byzantines never called themselves Byzantines. To the very end, they called themselves Romans, and in every real sense, they were the empire that Constantine founded, that Justinian glorified, that Theodore ended, that Basil expanded, and that Constantine XI died defending was Rome's last breath. The Western Empire may have fallen in 476, but Rome itself did not truly end until May 29, 1453, when the last emperor died upon fuels of Constantinople. This was Byzantium, the last remnants of Rome.